Well, hello, my name is Tim Gosselin. I got a special guest interview here today, Mehul Sheth. Did I say your name correctly?
Yep, Mehul Sheth.
And Mehul and I, we've been working together on his commercial real estate products for, over a decade now. And wanted to talk a little bit about Mehul and his journey through his business career and what the next step looks like. Mehul started his basement in the he started his business in his basement in New Jersey in 1995. And after 12 years of paying rent to others, he decided to stop paying rent and start growing equity, and he bought a building. Ultimately, he developed a business, a company that grew to $8 million a year in sales. He ultimately sold his business, became an employee of the firm that acquired his company, and then eventually, after 5 years, transitioned out of that, where now he's on to the next journey of his life. And it's the exit part that I really wanted to talk to Mehul, as a lot of the viewers of this are they've already started a business, they're already leasing, or they own a building. And what does that exit look like for them? I think just hearing your story would be really beneficial for them. So with that being said, thanks for coming on, and ready to have some fun?
I'm happy to be on the program with you, Tim.
Awesome. Hey, how did you, so after 20 plus years, how did you get to a decision where you were ready to sell the business, and were you actively looking for a buyer for your company? What did that initial process look like?
Well, it's a very interesting topic, Tim. First of all, we were actively looking for a buyer. Backing up, one of my neighbors who lives right next to me actually was in the business brokerage business. He had gone into it for just a couple of months and was trying it out, and came into my office with his boss at the time and said, "Hey, can we put a valuation on your company? Are you ready to sell it?" So he put a valuation on it, and I looked at it and I said, "Okay, I'm not sure if we're really ready to do anything." But you know what happens, Tim? You realize something, okay? And I want to use this example, I always do, but I think it really resonates, or should resonate with your listeners. Look at Circuit City, right? And how Circuit City was pushed by Best Buy, and how Best Buy was pushed by Target, and how Target was pushed by Walmart, and then Walmart was pushed by Amazon. So the point of the story is the bigger guys were getting bigger, right?
Sure.
So the smaller guys that were working out of their apartment / small place, as you referenced, like I did when I came to San Diego in 1995, I was working out of my apartment in Pacific Beach, California, 200 square feet. If I had an operation like that, yes, I could have sustained with a couple of clients. But when you have payroll and taxes, and you own a mortgage on a building and all of these other things, you come to a point where you have to have horsepower. And you know in your heart, Tim, whether you have the horsepower or not. And I looked at it and said, I have to tie my cart to a more powerful horse, or I may have to downscale back to being a couple of man company, not with a payroll of 13 to 15 employees full time. Having said that, it's interesting, I never found a buyer for my business. What happened was an interesting story. I was approached by 3M. I was a distributor for 3M, and 3M came to me and said, "Look, there's a 3M automotive supplier, and I mean supplier of IT, they were building shopping carts and so on for companies around the country that were 3M automotive distributors, and 3M was feeding them pricing and information under contract." And this company was based in San Diego. So 3M, so now they're going on the industrial side and the aerospace side, which I was on. They said, would you like to work with this company? They're actually based in San Diego, down the street from you. So anyway, long story short, I went, I met with them, and they said it's going to cost $28,000 to get your site upgraded. Because at that time we had a site that was built in-house by one of our employees, which was fine, but there was no shopping cart, instant buyout. And so anyway, the moral of the story is that that company, we paid them $28,000. We even mortgaged our, or put on hold our IRAs to pay for this thing because all our money was tied up in the business. So what happened was in 2016, there was a French company out of Lyon, France, and they were looking on the web. One of their guys who was based in Milwaukee at another company they bought, he was from France, but living in Milwaukee. He went online and looked for a 3M aerospace distributor on the West Coast. Because in Europe, they sold 3M, and in the US, they wanted to sell 3M, and they wanted a West Coast aerospace distributor, and they came to my site. Tim, their target was a $16 to $20 million company in sales. We were an $8 million company, but that $28,000 that we put in our website made us look like a $16 to $20 million company. And they came, they saw it and said, oh, well, you're not 16 to 20 million, you're 8. But guess what? We like what we see here. You have a niche business, you have freezers, you have advanced materials, and you have a good customer base. Let's buy your company. And I said, okay. And we sold it July 17th, 2016 to $150 million French company out of Lyon, France. So that's the story.
Wow. You know, I always say every building has a story to tell, and every business also clearly has a story to tell. What a great story of how 28 grand got you a buyer for your business. Well, you just never know. You got to put it out there.
You don't know, but until you put out the money, you don't know, right? What's going to happen?
Right. Okay. So there's a group out of France, they acquire your firm, and now you've gone from being the big honcho at your firm, so to speak, the president, the buck stops with you, and you close escrow, and now you become an employee of the company. What was that experience like for you? How did that feel being an employee?
Well, there's two aspects of it. The first year is just beautiful and wonderful, and everyone tells you that. Why? Especially being from France, they don't know anything too much about the business and your customer base, and they don't know how to run it. So they treat you like royalty. They fly you business class to France. They bring you to air shows. They bring you to France and introduce you to their team, and they bring you to their other divisions, and they justify to their people over there why they make such great investments, so they pep you up. And so the beginning is just a wonderful honeymoon of that first year. But I knew in my heart that they're going to eventually, after they get a hold of the business, they're going to want to put their stamp on it and run it the way they want to. So Tim, from the day that I started, which was on July, let's say 18th after the 17th, 2016, even though my title was local CEO of the division they just bought, Tim, I told myself one thing on that day. Every day I drove to work, I said, I'm no longer the owner of the company. I work for someone else. It's their company. And ultimately, they're going to decide the way they want to run it. I will give my input as long as they want it, which I just referenced. I already knew that was going to be limited, that I would maybe give a year of great input. And then once they got all the information, they would decide what they really liked about what I had and what I brought to the table, and what they wanted to change, which they so much didn't like, or just wanted to bring it more to their style.
Sure.
Once, Tim, you have that mindset that you now don't own it and you work for someone else, you're going to be okay.
Was that a difficult transition to go from, this was your baby that you started in your basement to you've got tons of staff and lots of overhead and you're the guy, good, bad, or ugly. It all comes down on you. How, because I just see this so often where I interact with these business owners and their identity is just wrapped up in the business, and it's really hard for them to let go. Tell me more about that experience for you.
No, I don't think for me, because it wasn't hard to let go because I sold it. So you have that mentality, once you've sold it, it is not the same company anymore. And anybody listening and any entrepreneur, if you guys decide to sell, it's not yours anymore. The day you sell, if you're still there, you're working in somebody else's business. If you try to hang on to it mentally as yours, it's going to be very, very painful from day one. Now, I'm not going to lie, Tim, there was a lot of pain later on, because something that happened to me never happens generally. I had a 2-year contract. It was renewed for 2 more. And then after that, it wasn't renewed, but it carried on in perpetuity till I was asked to leave January 31st of this year, actually. So I did something which is almost unheard of for entrepreneurs. I was there 5.5 years working after I left. So the honeymoon period ended, and then there was a last 2.5 years during COVID where I was stripped of different responsibilities, different people were brought in, things were done differently than I would have done them. But again, Tim, I go back to the same principle. It wasn't that I had to swallow my tongue. My tongue, I already cut it off. I already cut my tongue off, knowing that from day one, I don't own this company anymore.
If you, looking back, retrospect, 2020 hindsight, if you had to do it over again, what would you have done different? What would you have changed?
About selling the company or growing the company?
Just your deciding, making that decision to exit out.
I wouldn't have done anything differently. I'm not going to lie, Tim. Again, I go back to that same thing. You know in your heart when it's time to sell.
Sure.
Right? You have that feeling that it's time to sell. One thing, Tim, I might have done, okay, I'll give you one thing. I might have looked at it a year and change earlier, because my company was doing a little bit better about 1.5 years or so earlier. Remember that 2016 was what, Tim? 5 years or so removed from one of the worst periods that our economy had gone through, that crisis between 2008 and 10.
The Great Recession. Yeah.
The Great Recession. And it really didn't hit my business because I did a lot of export too. It didn't hit me as much in 2008 and 9, but it really caught up to me in 2010 and 11. And the reason why was it because it wasn't that we were doing bad, but the banks that were financing us were not doing well. So they tried to constrict our credit lines due to their problems, and that cash restriction really stopped our growth. If I had to look back, probably I would have maybe tried to sell it once that process started. And that would have been in about 2012 and 13. I may have tried to get my own broker and sell it while it was on the upswing. And instead, we fought ourselves valiantly and carried ourselves through 2014 and 15. And we sold it in good condition in 2016, but I probably would have gotten, maybe looking back, a little bit more if I would have sold it at our height of sales, which was 2013.
So you've exited out of the business as both the CEO, the founder, and then ultimately an employee. You're still young. You've got kids in high school. What does the next stage of your business career, what is that going to look like?
Well, Tim, I've been wanting to give back, and I've started a podcast to help small businesses either grow or sell or understand how to do things. And my podcast is called Small Business Horsepower Podcast. It's hosted by Podbean, so you can find it on Podbean, but you can also find it readily on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Spotify, on Tumblr. Also, Tim, you can find it on our website at smallbusinesshorsepower.com. Again, that's smallbusinesshorsepower.com. And there I've put a process in place where companies can get a hold of me through smallbusinesshorsepower.com. For example, aside from listening to the podcast, which is under the Step Into My World section of that, if they email me through my website and they're interested, especially these San Diego-based businesses, but even nationally in terms of helping their businesses grow, I'm more than happy to help consult or help companies with different aspects of their business, whether it's sales, it's marketing, it's questions on strategy, finance, cash flow, product development. I've done it all, and I really feel that I have that work ethic and horsepower to help companies. So please find me on my podcast, Small Business Horsepower, or at my website, smallbusinesshorsepower.com, or you can email me, Mehul Sheth, and my email is smallbusinesshorsepower@gmail.com.
Well, knowledge is power, and you brought a business cradle to grave. You purchased a building in the process, sold a business. If anyone has any challenges out there and you're looking to take your business to the next level, I would certainly encourage reaching out to Mehul. Thanks so much, Bud. I appreciate your time and this interview.
Thanks to you, Tim. I do want your listeners to know that from the day I bought my building originally, we had sublet it, and we went through some challenges at that time, and you were behind us there as finding us a tenant from that building when we wanted to share the cash flow. And then later on, you brought another tenant in. And then later on, you helped, after we shut down the company operation, bring in a fantastic client in. So you know the area, you know the market well. And we were able to do, I think, at least 3 deals, if not more, just in a 12-year, about a 12-year span in that building that we had there. So thank you for all you've done for our business.
You are welcome. I appreciate the opportunity, and I've enjoyed working with you and look forward to continue doing that in the future.
Okay, Tim.
All right, thanks, Mehul, and thank you everyone for listening. Make it a great day. Take care, and God bless. If you like this video, would you smash the YouTube like button, hit subscribe, and feel free to leave any comments, good, bad, or ugly. I would greatly appreciate your feedback. It's never too early to plan for next steps. If you would like to know the value of your business, the assets of your business, or of course, the commercial property itself, I would be happy to provide you with a broker opinion of value. Thanks again for watching this Tim Talk video.